So I should get my participants list up here. I see that we're on YouTube. Have we started UGTV yet?
We sure have. I was just about to let you guys know I'm good to go.
Perfect. Thank you. And Bridget, do we have anybody who, I see a couple of people who are in the queue waiting to be made panelists.
Correct. I had to get the host rights back from Mariah. I'm working on it now, Commissioner.
Perfect. Thank you. I'm going to wait just a second before we start our meeting because I see that one of our committee members is in the queue to get into the meeting. So we'll hold for just a moment. Perfect. I see that Commissioner Johnson has joined us, which means that all of the committee members are present. And so before I call this meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee to order, see if I can work my computer, I want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as some being on site. All participants are asked to mute their phones or computers when they are not speaking to avoid background noise during the meeting. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak so that the public who is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. Due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. With all of that said, I'd like to welcome everyone to this meeting of the Neighborhood and Community Development Standing Committee, and I'll ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Roll call. Walters.
Here.
Johnson. Townsend.
Here.
Burrows.
Here.
McKiernan.
Here.
And do we have Commissioner Johnson on?
Commissioner Johnson had dropped off. He should be joining right now for a panelist.
Commissioner Johnson, we're doing roll call.
He just came back on.
Here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, there were no revisions to tonight's agenda after it was originally published. And so we'll move to our next item of business, which is approval of our standing committee minutes. Tonight, we have two different sets of minutes, one from our August 31 meeting and one from our September 28th meeting. Our August 31 meeting, there were some revisions requested at our last meeting, so it has come back for approval. But before we get to that, Commissioner Townsend had tipped me off that she wanted to make a couple of clarifications on at least one of those sets of minutes. So I'll recognize Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll address the minutes from August 31 of the 2021 Standing Committee minutes. I'd like to thank our clerk's office for their hard and diligent work in making the correction that I had requested. And I have no other questions or comments for that set of minutes. So having said that, I would move to approve the minutes for August 31 of 2021. And then we can address the September 28th, 2020. And I do have some corrections for that set of minutes.
Thank you. Is there a second for approving the minutes from August 31?
Burrows, second.
Thank you so much. Just to make sure that we're clear, let's go ahead and do a roll call and get these minutes approved.
Okay, roll call on the August 31st minutes. We have Walters.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you. Commissioner Townsend, some comments about September 28th.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. Yeah, this is Commissioner Townsend. With respect to the minutes from the September 28th, 2020 Standing Committee meeting for Neighborhood and Community Development, I would direct your attention to what is page 26 of those written minutes and line 7. In the middle of that line, you'll see the word did. There's a phrase beginning having to go through it where the first one did off more than they could chew. The word did should be bit, B-I-T. Also on that same page, page 26, line 14. And it starts off with the word participate, and then it goes into a sentence. If we already have guidance, the 6 is the number. I would love that I would agree with Commissioner Walters. I would like for the clerk's office to go back and review that section. It could be the way that the punctuation is placed here. I'm not sure, but I'm just asking they go back and review that section and to call me if there are any questions. It's just something I think is out of order, and it could be the way it's punctuated. I'm not sure.
Thank you, Commissioner. As I look at that sentence, I'm guessing that the period is 3 words earlier than it should be. But I guess I would ask, with your observations, would you like to approve the minutes in light of the corrections being made in the future, or would you like to hold these minutes over until our next meeting so that we can consider those corrections then?
I would prefer to do as we've done in the past and hold the minutes for the September 28th, 2020 over to make sure that all corrections requested have been made. That seemed to have worked out well this time, and I always appreciate the work of our clerk's office. So with that, I'd make a motion to hold these minutes over to the next meeting, the September 28th, 2020 minutes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second?
Walters, second.
Thank you so much. Let's go ahead and just take a quick roll call on this as well.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. So we will consider the minutes from September 28th, 2020 at our next meeting. That then takes us down to our committee agenda. There are 3 items on our committee agenda tonight. They are all concerning the land bank. The first item is a presentation regarding the land bank summary for the year 2020. And at this point, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Judd Knapp, who is our interim land bank manager.
Thank you, Commissioner. Let me share my screen. All right. Tonight, I'll give you an update of what happened in the land bank in 2020. I'll give you an update of the rehab program, update of our option program, and introduce a new app and our plans for the 2021 improvements to the land bank. To start out, we have a map of our rehab program. Our rehab program started in 2017. In 4 years, the program has completed 62 rehabs. For the year 2020, we've completed 15. We currently have 52 active rehabs, and the appraised value increase is for the completed rehabs. It's the difference between how much it was valued at when it came into the land bank and then how much it is currently valued at is $3.5 million. Next, we'll present some of our completed before and after pictures of our recent 5 homes that have been completed. The first one is at 1858 North 27th Street. Its appraised value when it came into land bank was $4,760. Its current listing price is $82,000. Get some before and after front. the bathroom that didn't exist before, the kitchen that was missing. Our second one is 221 Russell Avenue. Its appraised value when it came into land bank was $4,190. Its current listing price is $90,000. Some before and afters of the front. Inside. Our third one today is 2715 Haskell Avenue. Its appraised value when it came into the land bank was $30,000. Its current listing price is $82,000. I didn't have any before pictures on this one, but here are the after photos. Okay, so our next one is 1713 North 43rd Street. Its appraised value when it came in the land bank was $89,000. Its current listing price is $165,000. And our final one today is 3137 North 29th Street. Its appraised value was $5,350 when it came in the land bank. Its current listing price is $145,000. All right, that takes us to our option update. We started signing our first options in late 2019. You'll actually see one of those later in our presentation for our next items. But during that time, we have signed a total of 42 projects. 32 of those have been single-family homes. There's been 4 duplexes, 2 garages, and 4 commercial projects. The estimated increase in appraised value is $6.1 million when these are constructed. Next is our new app that we built. The number one question I receive in the land bank is this property available and how can I get it? So we do the research and determine if the property is available. Sometimes it is not. And then the applicant response to me is, then why is it on your map? So over the last 7 months, we've been going through all 4,000 of our lots that we have in the land bank. And we've been determined if by our land bank policy, if they're buildable or not. Let me quickly go over to the app itself.
So while Judd is doing that, some of the things, just to kind of fill out, why there would be, on our dot maps, why there'd be some land bank lots that are not actually available. It's a variety of things. So it's anything from they're in a floodplain and literally not buildable, to, we have a number of properties, and this is another thing we're working on, is kind of cleaning up kind of all sides of our data that are in the land bank but are actually a BPU. There's a pump station, or there's there are a number of kind of reasons why over the years a property would have just been kind of placed in land bank as kind of a temporary, and then it kind of got stuck there. So that is something that we're trying to now go through as Judd and his team is identifying these, and we'll eventually move those into kind of UG owned, just so we can kind of clean up that data. But those are a couple of the reasons why you would see some discrepancy. So this would be the map to go to see kind of what are those items that are available today.
Thank you. So here is the app, and the question I received is this property available? This map here answers that question. And how do I get it? This section over here answers that question. So I took this a step further and we did residential new construction. What is buildable for that's zoned residential? And on this tab, we have what's buildable, that's commercial construction. And then we have the yard extensions at the end are the ones that are deemed unbuildable. And in the here, it says this lot is only available for yard extensions if the following conditions are met. You live in the house adjacent to the property must be a vacant lot. You are current on your property tax and no active code violations. So this answers the question of how do I get a yard extension? So I identified a parcel I would like to show you on what this app can do. So the prospective applicant would come in here and say, I want to build a house at, what is that, 8th and Barnett. They click on that, they get the address, they get how many acres, they get the zoning, they get the status is for sale, it's buildable, it's not in a floodplain, it's not undermined. It's not hilly, you could build a house on it. The frontage is 26.5 feet, a lot square feet. And the demo year is 2015. So we know if the demo is after 1999, that is a good demo and the house is not buried under the lot. If we switch over to the yard extensions, we can go over down here. There's one here. Gives the address, it's unbuildable, and the status is lack of total square footage. So that parcel is too small to support a house, so it is eligible for the yard extension. Future enhancements to this, we're going to add like the land bank policy to this page. We're going to add like a frequently asked questions page that I get just to make it more user friendly. And for 2021, the land bank is hopes to get online fillable forms. Right now we have unfillable PDF forms that have to be scanned in and sent back to us. We're hoping for a new website that's more user friendly and answers some of those frequently asked questions. We're going to start taking online payments and a new database so we could easily keep track of our 4,000 land bank properties. Currently we're in Excel. I live in 3 different Excel documents, and we're going to combine those into one database. That concludes the for information only land bank update.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. I'd ask members of the committee if there are any questions, and I see that Commissioner Walters has a question or a comment.
Yes, I have a question. So I understand the process. You print out the form and you fill it out by hand and then you submit it. And then what's the next step?
I would basically just research it to see if it is available. And then I provide, if it's an option, if it's new construction, they get a packet from me that has the next steps. It's on that app, on that sidebar. It shows what I need to bring to this board to get approval. Basically, like a picture of what you plan to build, you know, what your timeline, your construction experience. It's all the things that I present to you is what I.
And what kind of turnaround time would the resident expect to have when he or she submits the application and you receive it in your office? Then how long until they get the response that you just described?
Hopefully, in a perfect world, it would be the same day or the next day when I go through my emails. But sometimes it is.
Well, but it's not an email, right? It has to be hard copy.
No, it is.
Form.
It is an email, but it is a PDF form, and then you have to print it out, fill it out, and then send it back to me. With the online fillable forms, hopefully they could fill it on their computer or their.
Well, but right now it's a PDF, and say they don't have a scanner in their home, so they fill it out and they send it to you. You get it in the mail. And this unified government keeps trying to call me. Sorry for the interruptions. So you think it's a short turnaround time, and at that time you give them all the instructions that they need to proceed.
Yes, and if the person doesn't have a scanner, I mean, I take the information from them over over the phone or through the email, and I fill out the form for them. We try
Well-
to be very accommodating.
Well, okay, I've had some people say they have a hard time getting a hold of you. But so then after they get the response that you send them and they submit a picture of what they want to build, then how long does it take for that response or review to happen?
Well, I put it together just like the PowerPoint that we're going to walk through, and I present it to the board here. I make sure I have all the things that would be available so you can make a decision. And I present it to you. That process usually takes like a month and a half.
Okay. Well, I'm all for trying to liquidate a lot of these. We have 4,000 lots. I see we have about 20 that we're going to try to return to the public today. But even at that, that would be what, 80 months before we would get through that. So this is a decades-long process we're in. I would like to do anything we can to accelerate that, including maybe requesting as we go through the budget process for 2022, options for how we could drastically increase the number of lots we return to the public, so that we could maybe have a 5-year goal instead of a 15 or 20-year goal of getting through these. Those
So-
are, excuse me.
Commissioner, I think that's a good observation. One of the things that we are constantly kind of dealing with is also just the market pressures and kind of market forces. So, our goal is to have as many of these lots, not just kind of turned into, yard extensions and things, although in some instances that makes a lot of sense. But whenever we can, we would like, if there was a structure on them, we'd like to have a structure back onto them. And so some of this is, we can only go as fast as there is a market that is driving those buildings. That being said, we are working through, providing the land at no charge if you're going to build has already increased. I mean, just as Judd was saying a little earlier, we've already had more single family home interests and other building last year than we have probably in the last decade. So things are moving in the right direction, and we are hoping to kind of accelerate that. But your point is well taken.
Well, the reason it's on my mind is I'm hearing that there's quite a demand for these properties compared to the recent past. So we might as well strike while the iron's hot. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Definitely.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'm going to just give a little bit of unfortunate out loud state. Oh, thank you so much. Okay, I was just going to remind the folks in the clerk's office who are running the meeting behind the scenes, since I'm not a presenter, I can't lower anybody's hand after I recognize them for comments. So if you could do that, that would be fantastic. It'll help me keep track of who's still in the queue. Any other comments or questions from members of this committee regarding the report that Mr. Knapp just gave? I don't see any other hands nor here. So thank you for that. And let's move on to the second part of our agenda, item number 2, which is land bank option applications. Mr. Knapp, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. So now I'll go through our options that we have for this month. This month we have 13 new single-family homes, 1 duplex, and 4 townhome units. The projected increase in appraised value for these is $3 million. The option since 2019, the projected increase would be $9.2 million if all those projects were built out. First one is RST. They're bringing forward phases 1 of 3. They actually submitted 3 phases to us, but phase 1 has 5 single-family homes. The additional phases has a total of 8 single-family homes and 9 townhomes. But with their timeline of building in 45 to 60 days, with our approval process, I believe we could stay ahead of them. So if they start building, we'll push phase 2 to you. They want to start in January. They want to start as soon as they can. They want to do, once their crews are trained, their local crews, for instance, are trained, they want to have multiple projects at once. This is a new construction type. This is walls. They put up the walls in forms and pour concrete inside the walls. It has a great insulation value. It will not look like a concrete home. The company has already met with our building inspection department also. Their construction experience, they've built over 1,000 structures in Mexico and Latin America. They built small schools, clinics, commercial, industrial, and homes. So for today, phase 1 is 5 single-family homes. They will replat to fit these 4 homes on 1231, 1235, 1237, 1243 Armstrong over here. And they will combine these 2 lots on the north here to build 1 home. The next step would be planning approval, building inspection. And since it's a little different build, there's a little different steps they have during the building process. They provide us with a building estimate, proof of funds to cover the building, and then we can deed the property to them if you approve it, of course. The recommendations, the staff advisory committee and the land bank advisory board were in favor of this. I would stop and say that all these projects, the staff advisory committee recommended them for approval. The land bank advisory board, we had 2 members that voted no for not contacting the neighborhood group. That was, and then we had, and at the corner of the next one is 1400 North 5th Street is a brownfield site for an old gas station. The member was worried about that. And I have to say the applicant is aware of the situation and we're going to look into it during the due diligence process.
So even though this is one item on our agenda, it's item number 2, I wonder if it would make sense for us to consider these options as 3 groups. The first group being RST, the second group being J. Horton, and the third group being Amy Struther. Ms. Carter, Mr. Knapp, is that okay with you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so we're going to consider then this first option application, which is for a total of 6 lots that will yield a total of 5 single-family homes. And I'll ask the committee if there are any comments or questions about these options. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Okay, thank you. I think Mr. Knapp addressed questions that I had written in my notes, but just to be clear, I'm going to ask them again. Mr. Knapp, you said that the Land Bank Advisory Committee had seen and reported their recommendation or not on the projects currently on the screen for RST?
Yes, and they recommended them for approval.
Okay. The other note I had to inquire about was whether or not this company had ever built anything in Wyandotte County, KCK. And I understand you to say that they build in what, Mexico and South America?
Yeah,
Yes.
this is a Mexican company that is interested in doing some work here in the States and potentially having a facility here. Actually, Chris Jarvis and Christian Arnold are present. If you have any specific questions for the applicant, they can certainly provide more information. But this would be the first building that they would be doing in KCK and Wyandotte County, with their hope that this would be the first of many, as well as allow them to really build up a workforce and even a materials facility in the community as well.
Okay, well, if those gentlemen are available, here are my questions, and then they can answer them in turn. Have there been any other homes like the ones they're proposing here built anywhere else in the United States? And is there headquarters here in Wyandotte County? Where is their corporate office?
Well, I'll ask the clerk's office if you can promote Chris Jarvis and Christian Arnold. And their headquarters currently are in Mexico. That one I can answer.
What were the names again, Catherine?
Christian Arnold is the other.
Christian Arnold?
Yep.
Chris Jarvis currently has his hand raised in the attendees batch.
Right, I got them.
Perfect.
They should both be there.
Mr. Arnold and Mr. Jarvis.
Yep, here I am, Christian.
Hello. Yeah, if you could answer or reference Commissioner Townsend's questions.
Sure, I can speak to the ones that I have information on, and then Chris can chime in on the other ones. Our office is in the River Market in Kansas City, Missouri. We've built projects all over the country. We also built the project with working with CHWC 423 Armstrong a few years ago. And then we've done numerous commercial projects in Kansas City, Kansas as well. The location that Chris Jarvis has set up for this operation is located in Kansas City, Kansas.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Arnold. So you have had experience in KCK already with a residence, building a residence?
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. The schematic that Mr. Knapp showed, is that really intended to look like the homes you're going to build?
Yes.
They will look like that, okay. And did you speak with some of the neighborhood groups, or I don't know if there's a neighborhood group, this is not my district, but
Yes, that is in the neighborhood outreach is in process. We've been working closely with the mayor's office, and Mayor Alvey offered to make a personal introduction, and with the holidays that didn't happen. So our intention is to reach out to them. I think it's part of the Cathedral District or neighborhood group. And so that is in the works.
thank you. I have no other questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Burrows.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The question I would have is more for staff and maybe Mr. Knapp in reference to the two corner lots. And Mr. Chairman, I want to ensure that if we do vote on all these collectively, we are voting to also combine the lots of 1246 and 1244.
So that would be part of the process that the applicant would go through with the planning department. So we are presenting this as that would be the intention, and that would be one of the things they would do during this due diligence option period.
Thank you. The reason why I ask is why they, do we have a minimum requirement of the size of homes on corner lots versus mid lots? Are they all the same? Mid block versus corner lots?
I believe they are all the same. I know with our narrow lot designs, the corner does offer more flexibility in terms of type. So you can do kind of different, multi-family type of things or row houses. But in terms of yeah, I don't believe, I mean, that would be a question really for planning to answer definitively, but I am not aware of a difference between a corner versus an interior lot in terms of the frontage.
I know, I assume that a corner lot is of more value and you have frontage on both sides. I'm looking at 1243 and I'm assuming that the home will be facing north to meet the address requirement. On 1246 and 1244, I'm assuming facing west.
No, it would be facing south.
Be facing south. And you believe that is there a chance that 1246 and 1244 could be cut in half horizontally and two homes be put on it versus the long narrow and have two square lots? So basically it would be 13th Street would have a lot on the north side of where the numbers are, 1244 and 1246, if we were to cut them in half that way?
Yeah, we have found that they're not quite deep enough to fit two full-size homes. We are looking at some of the potential on the south lots because the alley is already somewhat improved, to consider looking at like an accessory dwelling unit to the primary home that would be facing Armstrong. But right now we have not pursued that as a viable option, but it's almost close enough to working with a carriage house, so to speak, being on the alley side. It makes it difficult from a marketing point of view, just because of the alley access to be a primary entrance for the home to face the alley then.
I would just ask staff to look at some of these long, thin lots and see where they are as to coming forward and combining some in lot allows for a larger, more substantial home to on them. I'm not opposed to 1224, 1226 being combined. That is just a nice lot, as well as 1243. Assume that 1243 will have either a larger or more home being.
Commissioner, that is actually a question that I had when we reviewed these earlier. And my understanding, and Catherine, correct me if I'm wrong on this, is that 1243, 37, 35, and 31 will all be combined and then split into three equally sized lots that'll be roughly equivalent to the combination across the street. Is that correct?
That is, they'll be
I'm sorry,
split into
four.
Yeah, so there are 4 lots there, but they're all different sizes. So yeah, you are correct that they'll be kind of combined and then re-split so that they're more like 50-foot frontages instead of 25, 25, and 100. Correct. And Commissioner,
Thank you, staff. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate that. I really do believe if we're going to put a more modern looking stately home in the neighborhood, that they have amenable lots that complement the build. So thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I think I've had a chance to meet Mr. Jarvis in the past and had a good opportunity to find out about these homes. I think they're going to be something that will bring great interest to Wyandotte County. I think they have good intentions in terms of building in Wyandotte County. I will say they see the opportunity that I think a lot of us see in terms of the eastern side of Wyandotte County. They could easily go out and build these types of houses out in Johnson County or other areas in the metropolitan. I think that they see a real opportunity here for a lot of reasons. But so I would certainly be supportive of this. I will say though that there have been some questions from the land bank committee in terms of certain unknowns, compliance to local, state, and federal requirements, price of homes, environmental assessments, et cetera. I don't know. Those things seem to still be left unanswered, and I'm wondering, are those things that are required in order to move forward? How do we address those types of questions? And that can be either to Judd and or at Catherine, or however you all see fit.
Thanks. Yeah, those a lot of those questions would be considered during this option period, or I like to think of it really as a due diligence period. None of these properties have any environmental issues that we are aware of. The next item we will talk about, there is something a little different on that one, but we'll save that one. But really what we want to make sure before we actually transfer the property, is that the financing is in place, that things, that the builder can build what he has or she has promised and told us that they are going to build of that same quality, as well as any of the planning approvals. So, changing these, they run into any issues with changing the parcel kind of boundaries. This case, there's no issue with rezoning. Others, they're going through that process. So really try to make sure that kind of all those questions are answered, and then we're at a place when we're ready to transfer the property that we know that that property will be built in the way that we were told that it would be built, as well as we feel confident that there is a market for what is being built in that location.
I think is it my understanding that they're hoping to at some point have a plant built here, or something on that order, in order to be able to not have to ship things so far.
Yes, correct. Yeah. So RST, one of the things, this is kind of a different building materials and structure wise. One of the things that we are seeing, lumber costs have gone up about 300% in the last year. And so this is really kind of pushing, builders, especially in the Midwest, to consider other options. With this kind of cement, I won't be able to do justice to how it is, how it's built, but the way I will say that the way that this is built actually reduces the energy costs significantly. They're much more energy efficient, as well as less maintenance, kind of in the long term for these properties. But the energy efficiency is a big one, as well as the speed with which they can build.
Well, I agree with Commissioner Townsend in terms of the neighborhood support. I think, again, that's in Commissioner McKiernan's district, so I will lean to his leading on as it relates to that. But other than that, I have no further questions. Thank you, Commissioner McKiernan.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Yes, these lots are in my district. And for those of you who might not otherwise know, if you look at the lot that's labeled 1243, immediately to the left of that, which is out of the picture that we are seeing, is McKinley Elementary School. So this would be a nice location to bring families that are close to the elementary school and give them easy access to the school right across the street. For that reason, I do support the adventure to take these lots and replant them and end up with 5 new homes on them. I think having 5 new homes would be great. I did have an opportunity, Mr. Arnold had referenced a house they built on Armstrong. I've had the opportunity to tour that house immediately after it was constructed. And although the methodology is a little bit different on that house, I was impressed that it was good quality construction. And so I'm confident that they will bring the same quality into these homes. And certainly I can help facilitate reaching out to the neighborhood group, because we do want them to be involved in this process as we go through it. Are there any other comments or questions from the committee on this first batch of options? If not, I will entertain a motion for this first batch.
Move to approve Johnson.
Second, Burrows.
We have a motion and a second to approve this first batch of options as presented. Any final discussion? I'll ask the clerk's office, and I should have asked this earlier, did we receive any communication regarding this batch from the public?
No public comments were received.
Thank you so much. In that case, roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you so much. That takes us to our second batch of options. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you again. Okay. All right, so J. Horton Holdings, they were, a little history, they were one of our first option signees. And this was signed without board approval in January 2020. We have then since changed our policy where I bring the proposals to you first and then you approve them and then they spend money. J. Horton Holdings has actually spent their own money currently, so that's why we're bringing all three phases forward instead of one, because they've already spent money on there. Let me go to, so the phase one, they want to build 3 single-family homes here. Phase 2 is 4 townhome units and 1 duplex. And phase 3 is 4 single-family homes here. I do have to note that J. Horton Holdings owns these 3 properties here currently. Work completed to date. The option was signed on 1/8/20. They have the floor plans, the land survey, site plans, construction estimates, and have 5 interested buyers in the homes currently. Their timeline is they want, once the title work is completed, they will plan to build these houses in 9 months. Their construction experience, they hired CHWC for their pre-development work, the development of floor plans, budget, and all the items needed for permits. Here are the supplied house plans that they plan to use. So phase 1 is for 3 new single-family homes. We're going to combine 521 and 517 for 1 home. And 516, they're going to cut it in half and build 2 homes there. Phase 2, 1400 North 5th Street is the site of the gas station. That is a brownfield site that the applicant is aware of. And then 1 duplex built at 509, 1420, and 1416. The zoning for this 1400 is CP1, and it may need to go through a rezoning process. Phase 3 is for 4 single-family homes, 2 homes built on 520, and then 1 home built on 514 and 504. The next step would be planning approval, building inspection approval, building estimate, proof of funds to cover building estimate. The staff advisory committee approved. The land bank advisory board also approved with the 2 votes for not approval because it did not talk to the neighborhood group. I did email Colanda, and she said that she spoke with the previous neighborhood group president, but hasn't got with the current one. So that concludes what I have to say on that.
So our second batch of options on North 5th Street, do any of the members of the committee have comments or questions for Mr. Knapp? I don't see any hands up from the committee, but I'll alert the clerk's office that I do see that one of the attendees has a hand raised, and I believe that is the Carlanda that Mr. Knapp referenced. And so if that person, oh, that person disappeared.
They should be in the the panelists, Commissioner?
Yes, I'm
Okay.
back
Oh,
now.
there we go. Perfect. So I would assume that you are the person that Mr. Knapp referenced and that you'd just like to give us some feedback regarding these applications. Is that correct?
Yes, so I did want to just make one clarification. No, I haven't spoken with the homeowner group as a whole, but I did speak with Ms. Karen prior to Ms. Tia being the president of the homeowner group. I've also spoken to numerous residents over there as I've been over cutting the lots that we already own. Met Miss Bonnie, our sister Michelle. My parents know Mr. Wilson that also lives in that neighborhood. So while I haven't talked to them all as a whole at one time or presented at their neighborhood group meetings, I have met a lot of the current residents over there through other groups with HNMA, now known as Groundwork, et cetera, et cetera. So I also want to note that on the houses that are on the lots that we already own that we purchased from the Kickapoo Housing Authority, I plan to build my personal home there. And I'm actually really excited about that. So that's all. Stop talking.
And ma'am, I get so totally flustered on these Zoom meetings, I forgot our usual protocol, which is to ask you to give us your name and your city of residence, just for the record.
Sure. My name is Carlana McKinney. I am currently a resident of Overland Park, Kansas, but I did grow up in KCK. I actually went to Sumner. My sister went to Sumner. My other sister went to Schlegel. So I'm there all the time. My parents still live there. My grandparents still live there. And the point of this was to move back to Wyandotte County. So, yeah.
Perfect. It looks like we have a couple of commissioners that have comments or questions. I'll recognize Commissioner Johnson.
I'm real slow with these buttons tonight. I appreciate Ms. McKinney for wanting to come back home. And first of all, shout out to another Sumner grad. So I just had to put that out there. It doesn't matter whether you are a Sabre or a Spartan, because I know that Commissioner Towns is has her hands raised as well. But shout out to another Sumner graduate. I'm excited about your interest. We've had a chance to talk. I think it's been about a year ago, maybe more, about your interest in coming back home. Certainly, there are some questions I think that we had from the Land Bank Advisory Committee, and I'm assuming that Judd and Catherine are aware of those and will be addressing those questions as well. I think that these lots have been sitting open for so many years. I'm glad to see that there's somebody that has an interest in redeveloping this particular area. It's been long overdue, and we want to complete those lots there in the Turtle Hill area. I'm not sure who the new president of the Turtle Hill Neighborhood Association is, but I'd be more than happy to try to help in that process as well if you're having problems with that, Ms. McKinney.
Thank you, Commissioner Johnson. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, Ms. McKinney. I was going to tell Commissioner Johnson he blew it because I was going to let any references to Sumner pass, but he's brought this up. I am happy to know that there is interest in the area that's been identified by J. Horton Holdings. Here's my question. I'm not familiar with that company. Has that company built other residential structures in KCK or Wyandotte County?
No, ma'am. We have not built in Wyandotte. I've built, and I say we have, my partner and I, so I'm not the only owner in J. Horton Holding. Have built in Fort Worth, but not in
delicious chili. You didn't?
Oh, I think we might have a microphone open here somewhere.
I think it was
We'll ask
delicious.
We'll ask everyone to please mute your microphones if you're not engaged in the current conversation.
But I will say, Commissioner, that part of my strategy in approaching a lot of things is to identify deficiencies and partner with people to fill them, which is why we partner with CHWC to not only manage our project build, but also to do a lot of the construction. And if there's anyone that knows how to build in Wyandotte County, it's CHWC. So,
Oh, okay. So I heard the reference to CHWC, so they will be partnering with you on this. Okay. And so the next question I was going to ask then is, I don't know if there was a schematic presented. So the projects that you intend to build then will be similar in structure, I guess, to ones that are farther to, I guess that would be the west of some of these. I guess it's a blending question.
So yes and no. CHWC, the predominant difference is that CHWC currently builds spec houses because they do a lot at a time. So the houses, and I worked with Megan to design these houses. I kind of told her what we're going for, what we're looking for, and designed based on what some of the homes in the neighborhood currently look like, because we don't want them to stand out like sore thumbs. We want them to blend in with the current scape. But they will be similar in regard to maybe the siding and things like that, as far as the homes that CHWC has already built. But the finishes will be different. It'll be a little bit higher grade materials than what they currently use for their spec houses. It won't look they won't stand out, if that's what your concern is.
Yes, blending in. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. Again, not my district, but I pass by there any number of times, quite frequently. So again, I'm glad to see interest in this area for development for residential homes. In terms of the pricing, do you have any idea what you're looking at in terms of the pricing of the finished product?
Yes, so we're looking at anywhere between low 2s to mid 2s. Now, because we're building in batches, that might fluctuate between the first batch and the last batch. But my personal goal is to keep them accessible and to keep them, I don't want to come in and, raise the price of living in the neighborhood. I think that's where a lot of developers go wrong and don't really get the support of the community, because they come in and build things that stick out like sore thumbs, and then you have Beacon Hill, right? But I do want them to be accessible, but we are not a non-for-profit, even though we're partnered with one. So there will be a profit made on them, but there won't be like, $500,000 homes or anything like that.
Okay, and I think that is so important for any builder to have done their homework with regard to who they're marketing to. That was a question that I was confronted with when I first came in office back in 2013 about homes that had been built on Quindaro, say starting in about 13th and going further west. So I think it's essential for the builders to have in mind a target group so that you will be successful in having these homes occupied, because that's the whole point. So
yeah,
thank you very much.
You're very welcome. And it might help to know, we already have 3 letters of intent signed for people who want to purchase these. All of them are grew up in Wyandotte County, young family, mid 30s to early 40s. And much like myself, are looking to buy in Wyandotte County, but don't necessarily want to stay out by the legends, because the city is fun to live in. So, yeah.
Well, that's great. And you won't have to go far, or whoever, they won't have to go far to take advantage of a grocery store now. So
exactly.
That's great to hear. Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.
Thank you, Commissioner. I will ask the clerk's office if we received any communication regarding these options from the public.
No public comments received.
And I'll ask if there's anyone else in attendance who would like to offer comment on this group of options.
I don't see anyone. I'm looking, Commissioner.
Very good. Thank you so much. If there are no other comments or questions from the committee, then we are open to a motion.
Move to approve Johnson.
Townsend, second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Burrows.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing the construction. It looks like we have some Zoom and internet gremlins at work here tonight, so we will persevere as best we can. And that's a cue to me to just slow down and make sure everybody has an opportunity to participate if they want to. That takes us to our third batch of options. Mr. Knapp, I'll turn it back to you.
Thank you, Commissioner. The third one is Amy Schuler from Phoenix Estate. They're planning to develop a 34-acre inner city equestrian park. Basically, it's an Airbnb for horse owners. They are requesting. They currently own 429 Sorter Drive right here, and they were requesting 3319 North 44th Terrace, 3334 North 44th Terrace, and 4451 Sloan Avenue and 4600 Parkview Avenue. On the 4600, I'll just go to the next one. So they're planning, this property here was given to Fred Del Toro in the property swap, but they're planning to move the house and horse stables to this lot here. And then they're on their current one they own, they're planning to build a barns with hotel suites. They plan to put trails in here for riding and pasture turnouts. Here's an example of the home they plan to build, 2,000 square foot, 1 horse stall, 4 horse capacity. It's a 4-bedroom, 2-bath. They plan to start construction in March 2021 and complete it by November 2021. The next step would be planning approval because planning mentioned that they were going to go change them to ag zoning, but with a special use permit for the commercial Airbnb part. Building inspection approval, building estimate, and proof of funds to cover their building estimate. The staff advisory committee and land bank advisory board all recommend for approval. And that is it.
Thank you, Mr. Knapp. Are there questions or comments for Mr. Knapp regarding this third set of options?
And Ms. Strother is, or was at least, available to answer questions if you have them for the applicant.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. I'll recognize Commissioner Townsend in the meantime.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If Ms. Strother is available, I would just like to hear, and possibly other members of the committee would like to hear her overall plan and design intent for this. I appreciate Mr. Knapp's presentation, but I'd like to hear some more about this from her. I did speak with her some time before. And for clarification, Mr. Knapp, what does this have to do with the property that Mr. Del Toro recently acquired, other than just proximity?
Amy was working with me before that property swap happened, and she had these, she paid a development company to make up plans for her, and we included Fred Del Toro's lot. That's why it's included in there. But it is not available now. So she moved the house she was going to build on that lot to another one of the 4 lots that we have.
Okay, so it really has no bearing on this at this time, so.
It doesn't. It's just in the drawing that she had produced.
Okay. Well, if Ms. Strother is available, I'd just like to hear from her, please.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Commissioner Townsend. This is Amy Strother. In regards to that lot, I'll bring it back up again. I've been working since about June prior to Mr. Del Toro being awarded that parcel. That's why with my written, like Mr. Knapp said, I had already began work with CMW Architecture and Engineer Developers to draw up these plans for a master plan in order to present it to the board as we are doing at this time. I'm a Wyandotte County native, grew up, also a Sumner graduate, 2000, class of 2000. And I graduated June the 17th, 2000, and June the 28th, I was in San Antonio in the Air Force. So at this time, I just finished my 20 years on June the 28th, this past 2020. And I was trying to figure out now, what do I want to be when I grow up? The parcel that I currently own was my grandfather's, Joseph Germany. I also grew up and went to Quindaro Elementary School and lived in my grandmother's house right there on Delavan Avenue, Delavan and Brown area. So in having that parcel in our family, the intent was to keep it in our family. But what am I going to do with it other than keep the lawn mowed and knock down the dilapidated structure? That's when I noticed the opportunity in the land bank with all the parcels that adjoin to it. And still to myself, I'm saying, so what? What does that mean? And it came to me in a dream to make an equestrian resort. And I found out a few months later that the American Royale was moving out by the Legends. So to me, this would have been complementary to what is going to happen out there. So for all of the events and all of the, I guess you could say, more high dollar or glitzy and glam things that are going on out there, this would be a complementary structure or estate for people to visit if they're not partaking in all of the activities out there. One of the things that Mr. Knapp, and putting that to the side for an opportunity, one of the things that he alluded to was for it to be an Airbnb, that structure. Meaning I think that is 47th Street. So the west side of the end of the properties. You guys can't see what parcel number that is, but it's the west side, 172401. And that would have the home on it that would be originally considered an Airbnb property. But I also am considering veterans that suffer from PTSD, having instructors or assistant type people come in to help them through some issues post active duty or separation from active duty. And I also considered this area to be an opportunity to have youth come out and volunteer at this equestrian resort with the horses and get maybe some volunteer hours for high school and things of that nature. Does that answer your question in regards to what I intended this structure to be?
Thank you, Ms. Strother. Yeah, it answers some and raises some others. Mr. Knapp, did you say that during the vetting process is when there may be the requirements for any type of permits, business permits? Ms. Strother would have to go through that at that time? Would there be a requirement for planning and zoning for an equestrian park in that area as a business?
Yes, and that would happen during the option period.
Okay, even though she would not be the owner of the property at the time?
She would have to get a special use permit from planning.
Right, before she became the owner of the process, if this is going through the option agreement process.
Yes, so when you have the option, you basically have, we are basically giving the pool of the property to make those applications as if they were the owner. And then if they do not work out, then no harm, no foul. We retain ownership, but they are allowed to, we are giving them permission to make those applications while the land bank still retains ownership.
And that would be the same with the Airbnb application as well then, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Ms. Strother, do you have any, first of all, thank you for wanting to return home after 20 years of service in the military. Are you through, you've completed your military service now?
Yes, ma'am, I have. I am done with the Air Force, not in a negative way, but I just want to do something, work for myself, not
Well,
do something different.
You've done your time, so thank
my
you
time.
for your service. Do you have any experience with the equestrian project, for lack of a better term, that you're looking to operate?
So in reference to building it or in reference to running one, is that what you're?
To operate.
To operate, okay, well, specifically not horses. However, I'm a contracting officer over a region of 27 countries. And currently I communicate with over 500 people, 7 days a week on the other side of the world. And that's my current job. So, and I'm a contracting officer. So that means I've contracted for construction, for services, for commodities, anywhere from $50,000 to $500 million. In regards to specifically equine, I'm relying heavily on my father, Barry Anderson. He's been my subject matter expert when it comes to spacing for horses, knowing what they need. And that's also the reason why I reached out to CMW Architectural and Engineering. I could not find a local entity that would know enough about what an equestrian facility, whether it's a resort, a home, personal home, or anything, a barn. So I reached out to them because you need experts in whatever you're doing in order to create this estate. So I have experience in program management, contract development, and things of that nature. And yes, I have, the last time I rode a horse was this summer when I spoke to you, but as a girl, as a child. So that's my extent.
Okay, well, maybe during this vetting process, Ms. Carter could put you in contact with some people with the American Royal who may, give you some guidance as well. But do you intend to just build it and let people board their animals there? Or do you intend to build the facility and also bring in horses for people to ride? I'm not quite clear.
Correct. So I do intend to allow people to board their horses there. There's not a lot, although it looks like a lot of space, 34 acres, there's not a lot of green pasture space. So it will be extremely limited to what is there long-term, what I actually own with my family, and what will be kind of like an overnight situation. Somebody just passing through for a short term, a weekend or a week or something like that. So it's a compilation of all three.
Oh, so a compilation of boarding horses bringing in horses that your company would own for people to let and ride, correct?
Correct.
And then what was the other thing?
Short term, just overnight, a weekend. So the boarding horses, because of how much green pasture it is, it's only going to be a few, like
Okay.
2 or 3. And then I would only have a couple of horses as well because of the space for the green pastures. It's just, it looks like a lot of space, but it's not enough green pasture space. And I really don't want to disturb that area because it's so rich in green. The intent is to leave it as undisturbed as possible. And, because you're going there to relax and retreat, not to come to some commercial type site. But at the same time, not looking homey either.
Okay. Have you gotten any financing? Or shall I say, where are you with financing your project?
So I would ask Mr. Knapp what is required to provide for financing, because my husband and I have done very well over the last 20 years. So it would be personal resources.
We require like a building estimate of what's as estimated it would cost to build, and then proof of funds to cover that building.
Understood. Okay.
Okay, so that has yet to be addressed is what it sounds like during the vetting process. Would that be correct?
He requested a figure for the estimate on how much it's going to cost, and I did provide that. However, I have not provided proof of funds to date. That was not requested of me to date, but I can.
Yeah, we request those once the option is in place, then prior to actually transferring the property. So
Yes, ma'am. Okay. I didn't.
yeah, thank you.
Okay, I don't have any other questions right now. This would be an interesting project to watch as it goes through the vetting process. We move in that direction. So again, Ms. Struther, thank you for your service to the country and your interest in Wyandotte County as a homegrown DOT. Thank you. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll recognize Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you, Chair. And to Ms. Struther, again, I will reiterate what Commissioner Townsend said. Thank you for your service to our country. And welcome home. And again, shout out to another Sabre. I just have to do it. I'm sorry. It's good to see our people wanting to come back home because for a long time, we just heard of people wanting to leave. So I'm excited about your project. I did have a chance to talk to you and meet with you and your dad, who is a walking history book. And we certainly appreciate your interest in coming back home. I think the only question I have, and if Commissioner Townsend hasn't hit on it, it might not be an issue, is for Judd, is this property at all come into the confines or the environs of the Quindaro town site?
It does not. It is outside that.
Okay, very good. That's the only question I have. I think, like I said, I knew that if Commissioner Townsend hadn't touched on it, it must have already been addressed. So with regard to that, I'm satisfied. So thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Bynum, Melissa Bynum, who is one of our 2 at-large commissioners, has joined us tonight, and she would also like to comment. Commissioner Bynum.
Thank you, Commissioner McKiernan, for allowing me to just jump in here real quick. Ms. Struther, I have to add my congratulations to you on your service. And I have to also add my admiration for a fellow Sumner Academy graduate coming back to Wyandotte County. And and I don't think any of us are saying that in a way that's trite. It means a lot to us. My questions for you are the total parcels that you're requesting added together. What's the total acreage that you would have if all of this were to be deeded over to you after this option?
The land, this is Judd Knapp, the land bank manager. The 4 land bank parcels total 26 acres.
Okay. And the area where you are proposing this, I believe you mentioned that you have fairly deep generational family history in this particular area. Is that right? Did I hear that correctly?
Yes, ma'am, you did.
The area is, of course, beautiful, and kind of untapped, if you will. And I'm just wondering if your family is rooted there, were there any nearby property owners that you and your family knew personally that you were able to visit with? Have you been able to visit with any of the property owners up in this area? It is very rural, and I understand that. I'm just curious, what conversations have you been able to have with your nearby neighbors?
I appreciate you asking me that, and sorry I didn't bring it up. But yes, ma'am, I did speak to, I cannot remember his real name, but to the neighbor to the south of us, as well as the neighbor to the north of us. I wasn't able to speak with the gentleman across the street, but both of them were they were receptive by the end of the conversation. I'll say that. But the beginning of the conversation, no, ma'am, they were not. They, in a way of, it can't be done. Not, I don't want that here, but it can't be done.
Right.
This is how it looks, and this is how it's always looked. So I don't know why you're trying to beautify, improve, bring value, mess with this area. And so I tried to discuss it in a way of heritage, and to ensure them that it is not, my intent is not to strip any heritage. It's just to enhance and clean up the area, you know, bring notice to the area in a good light. So yes, ma'am, I was able to talk to them, and I did try and reach out to I sent an email to the Leavenworth committee, but I didn't get anything back. I sent 2. I tried to call, and no response. I don't know what it is about this area. It is just a drought for services. So that's why you have to be there to talk to people face to face, one-on-one, because that's the only way movement happens right there in that area.
Right. And interestingly, and I so appreciate your answer. Interestingly, for us, it's an area that's had a good amount of attention lately. By lately, I mean maybe the last 2 or 3 years. People are interested in this. They see that this, you know, property is up here, sort of untouched, unclaimed, if you will, parts of it, and they see it as a way to fulfill some dreams, and which sounds like exactly what you want to do as well. I'm just so glad to hear that you've been able to talk to some of your nearby property owners. What you're trying to do is very exciting. And just the final question, the road that you would access from, I can only imagine is in need of attention. So we would all probably need to be aware down the road that as you progress, you know, you're probably dealing with a public road that probably needs some TLC. So
Well,
thank you. Go ahead.
Honestly, that Sorter Drive Road that for the parcel that I currently own is blacktop nicely.
Okay,
It is actually very well maintained. 47th Street, the same. Because I've combed this area as a child, but in recent months during COVID, when there were literally like 2 people on the plane, I flew up there a couple of times and just walked the land and walked the streets, and it's not bad. However, the roads, the city roads, but the privately owned properties, they are pretty bad. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, I would agree with that assessment. Thank you for that so much. And that's all I had. Appreciate it.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Commissioner. I'll recognize Commissioner Townsend again.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to Commissioner Johnson's question, you are correct, Commissioner. I did not see Ms. Strother's application as a problem with regard to the proximity of the Quindaro town site, because this commission, in its wisdom, voted for the detailed map that I requested with regard to the MOU. This was several months ago. So it's easy to see where the defining borders are for the Quindaro Township, even though the area that Ms. Strother's application pertains to is in that general Quindaro area that people call it. So for me, that was not a concern. With regard to mention of the streets that Commissioner Bynum brought up, Ms. Strother, is it your intention to have private trails so the horses are not on the public roadways? Because those roadways are pretty narrow out there. I was with Mr. Del Toro some months ago, I guess back in August, at the property that he ultimately received in the swap, and it was barely enough room for 2 vehicles coming from opposite directions to pass safely. So do you intend for, this equestrian park to have trails off of the streets?
Correct, ma'am. The trails is that black line that traverses through the parcels, and none of those parcels have city roads running through them.
Okay, all right. Thank you. That gives me more comfort. The other thing I wanted to say is that I appreciate Commissioner Bynum's question about your conferences with neighbors and your response. And I think the use of this option agreement is intended not for just the more urban types of projects that we talked about earlier in the session and what people are more familiar with, but it's a good way to take something like what you're proposing to see if it can be done. Just because it hasn't been done before doesn't mean that it can't be done. So I think the option agreement methodology that's being employed here is perfect for this type of thing. And if things go well, then we'll go forward. If not, no harm, no foul. So again, thank you for your service to the country and for wanting to dream big and dream differently. So I have no further questions at this time. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see no other hands up in Zoom, so I'll ask the clerk's office if we received any communication about this option application.
No public comments were received.
Thank you very much. If there are no additional comments or questions, we are open for a motion.
Mr. Chairman, this is Commissioner Townsend. Move to approve the application as presented by Ms. Strother.
Second, Johnson.
We have a motion and a second to accept the application as submitted. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you very much, committee. That takes us through item number 2 and leaves us at item number 3, a request for a property transfer. Mr. Knapp.
Thank you, Commissioner. Sean Moore recently purchased 805 North 11th Street. He rehabbed the home, and he's requesting 809 North 11th Street for a yard extension. The staff advisory board has determined this is a buildable lot by policy, but it would be a challenging build. Since this would be a challenging build, we presented it to the board to determine what we would like to do with this request.
And I will say that this is also in my district, and I have advocated for Mr. Moore in this regard. I'm very familiar, unfortunately, with 805, which you can see in the right-hand side of this picture, which he has done a nice job of rehabbing. That house is actually one of the houses in my district that led me years ago to suggest that we should take these abandoned properties into the land bank and see if we can facilitate the rehab. It was vacant for about 12 years. It was tax delinquent for about 12 years. And Mr. Moore has stepped up to the plate, acquired it, and has on his own rehabbed it and has it occupied. And my argument to the staff on this one was that this is on 11th Street and that this, Mr. Knapp, if you could go back to the previous picture, right, there you go. My argument was that if you took the combined square area of 805 and 809, you would have roughly the same square area as any of the parcels that are along Ann Avenue or Armstrong Avenue to the east. And so each of those houses, although the lots are narrow, they're deep. And that gives the owner of the house the opportunity to have a yard in association with that house. And because of the particular configuration of 805, that house is really landlocked by houses behind it and originally on either side. Mr. Moore asked if he could have a yard to go with this house, and I certainly do support that application. I'll ask if any of the committee have comments or questions regarding this request for transfer.
Move to approve, Johnson.
Second, Walters.
We have a motion and a second to approve the extension as submitted. I'll ask the clerk if we received any communication regarding this application.
No public comments were received.
Thank you very much. Roll call, please.
Roll call, Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
Burrows,
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye. Thank you very much, committee, for work well done. Thank you, Mr. Knapp and Ms. Carter, both for your work. That takes us to the end of the agenda with no further items. This committee meeting is adjourned, and I'll transition to Commissioner Burrows for Economic Development and Finance.
Commissioner Burrows, you're on mute, sir.
Great, thank you. See, I want to welcome the public to the Economic Development Finance Standing Committee. Before I do, I also want to welcome BPU board member Jeff Bryan to the meeting this evening. And with that, before I call the meeting to order, I do want to announce that due to COVID-19, some committee members, staff, and public are attending remotely via Zoom, as well as on site. All participants joining by phone should mute their phones will not spit background noise. During the meeting, please make sure that you announce yourself by name and title every time you speak to the public that is observing knows who is speaking. This is critical given the number of remote participants and is the current guidance from the Kansas Attorney General. And due to COVID-19 requirements, in-person public comment has been suspended unless otherwise required by law. The public is allowed to participate by Zoom or submit comments by email prior to the meeting, and those comments will be included in the record of this meeting. At this time, I will now call the meeting of the Economic Development Finance Standing Committee to order. I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant, Mr. Bryant, you're muted.
Here.
Walters,
Here.
Johnson,
Here.
Townsend,
Here.
McKiernan,
Here.
Burrows.
Here. Thank you. And we do have one revision this evening to our agenda this evening. New item number 8 has been added, which is a resolution adopting the Second Amendment to the Downtown Campus Development Agreement. Next on the agenda, I will entertain a motion for approval of the September 28th minutes.
This is Bryant. Move to approve.
Johnson second.
McKiernan, second.
We do have a motion and clerk, please call roll once again, please.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. The minutes have been approved. Committee, tonight we have 8 items on our agenda, 5 of them requiring action, 1 of them public comment, and 2 of them for information only. So with that, item number 1 is the Multisports Stadium, and I believe that is the Second Amendment to the Stadium Venture Agreement, and I'll recognize Debbie Johnson, our Deputy CFO.
Thank you, Commissioner. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. As you said, this is the Second Amendment to the Multisport Stadium Agreement. I have a short presentation, so I'm going to share my screen here. Can everyone see that?
Yes.
Okay. As we said, this is the Second Amendment to the Multisport Stadium Specific Venture Agreement. This is the Sporting KC ticket tax. The Second Amendment will increase the ticket tax on Sporting KC tickets from the current rate of $2.25 to $3.50. Just wanted to give a little bit of history here on what's been done in the past. In 2010, the unified government entered into the agreement, and at that time, the ticket tax was set at $1. In 2011, there was also a community improvement district created at 0.1% and a transportation development district at 0.9%. In 2015, we had the First Amendment to the agreement, and that amendment increased the ticket tax from $1 to $2.25. And now we have in 2021, we have a recommendation for the Second Amendment that would increase the ticket tax to $3.50. So I put together a little graph just showing kind of where we are right now, showing the revenues that we have collected from 2010 to 2020, along with the expenses that we have. And then overall on the right-hand side, I've listed out, for instance, the 2019 revenues, we collected $834,000, and that's broken down to just under $13,000 for the community improvement district tax, $117,000 for the TDD, and the ticket tax collected was $703,000. The expenses that this revenue goes to cover are debt expenses related to the parking improvements for Sporting. It covers the annual parking lease, which is currently $351,000. It adjusts every 5 years for a CPI, and there is a CPI increase set for 2021. We haven't determined that rate yet, but we will probably be doing that here in the next couple of weeks. And then the amortization of the debt that was issued for the improvements on the parking lot. They've been currently at about $750,000 per year. We did refinance this issue in 2020. That did lower. So as you can see on this graph or on this table, the expenses have been since 2012 have been around $1 million to $1.1 million per year. And you see that in 2020, the payment drops to 623, and that is directly related to the refinancing. 2020 and 2021, the payments dropped to around 600,000. And then in 2022, they do pick back up closer to $1 million. But as you can see, as of the end of 2020, we are at about just under 3.5 million in a deficit for collections, revenue collections to cover the debt. So we are proposing that we increase the ticket tax by $1.25, and based on our projections, that deficit would be collected over the remaining life of the bonds. The bonds are set to mature in 2031. And our projection is that that deficit would be made up by the time the bonds are paid off. So the commission action, there is commission action for tonight, and it's to approve the resolution. I did just want to note, we have had conversations in 2020 with officials from Sporting, and they are in agreement and have signed off on the increase. If there's any questions?
Questions? Any member of the committee have any questions? I'll ask the clerk if any comments were received from the public.
No public comments were received.
Great, thank you. Debbie, one question I might have, that's a 10-year cycle to retire the deficit with the new increase to 350 at this time, correct?
That's correct. That takes us to the end of the current maturity on the bonds.
Okay. Having no questions, does any member have any other comments? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion. This is an action item.
Walters move for
Looks like
approval.
Gil Townsend has her hand up, sir.
I'm sorry, I don't see that, but let me pull that part of my screen up. I apologize, Commissioner Townsend. I believe you're muted.
Yeah, not a problem, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Townsend, let's have one question for clarifications. I went through this. The language appeared to me to state that, I guess several years ago, we anticipated an increase. So from what I'm hearing Ms. Johnsher say tonight, if we make the increase sought tonight, that should be sufficient for the rest of the life of this bond?
That is correct based on our projections that we've done. However, if there are, I know we're not receiving, we are going to be receiving a payment from Sporting in 2020, but it's only about 10%, I think, of what we received in 2019. And obviously that was due to a shortened season and restrictions on the seating capacity. If that continues into the future, that could affect our projections. But as of right now, we're projecting that if we return to normal in 2021, that we would collect enough by the time the bonds pay off to cover all of the expenses.
All right,
We do plan to monitor it over the next several years to see how our projections are performing.
Okay, so hopefully this will take care of the debt, but it'll still continue to be monitored.
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Any other questions for committee? I don't see any of the hands at this time. I entertain a motion. I believe I heard Commissioner Walters make a
Yes.
motion.
Move for approval.
Townsend, second.
There's been a motion and a second. I'd ask the clerk, please call roll.
Roll call. Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. That brings us to item number 2, the Brownsfields grant. It's an assessment coalition grant, and I'll ask Stephanie Moore to present this item. Welcome, Stephanie.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Okay, here we go. It's the Brownfields presentation. In your packet, you would have received the MOA that we're going to talk about, the resolution to approve this. So let me see if I can arrow down. Okay, so the coalition has 4 coalition members. Mid-America Regional Council is the lead member. They're our fiscal agent. And then the City of Kansas City, Missouri, Jackson County, and the Unified Government. And so Judd kind of talked about a brownfield in his previous one. So basically that's any property that may have or the presence of potential hazardous materials, either like drums on the site or maybe underground storage tanks. And then so this grant is to assess and do those assessments to find out and to confirm or deny if there are pollutants on the site. So the award we got, you may remember back, I think in June, we had a big press conference, but we applied for this almost a year ago, a little less than a year. No, it's been December of last year we applied and we were successful. So our award is $600,000. Now we don't get all of that. So some of that money will go to the admin of Mid-America Regional Council, we'll get some of that as our fiscal agent. And then 400,000 of that will be used on at least 10 sites throughout the 3-year grant period. And then we'll get those equally divided between the coalition members. So here's a little bit of the process. Mid-America Regional Council, they'll do the procurement. They also do the reporting to the EPA. And then those 4 coalition members approve the projects. And then assessments would be done and conducted on the sites. And then this is how a site, we already have 3 priority sites already approved in the grant. And if we wanted to apply for additional sites, this is the process here. So we would get at least 2 more, possibly 3 if the coalition approves that. And then the EPA would have to approve our what site we're looking at. And each site is capped at that $100,000. And that would be a majority vote from the coalition members, and they post those public meetings with public comment. And then one of the priority site we put in the grant is 1726 Quindaro for that Northeast Co-op grocery store. It used to be a hardware store. So we want to make sure that is safe for the community. And then so what I would need tonight is your guys' approval to move this on to the full commission for the 28th. And then the mayor would sign that memorandum of agreement. And if you have any questions.
Committee, any questions? Let's see if I see any hands. I'm sorry. Let me pull this back up.
Okay.
I do not see any. Oh, Commissioner Townsend.
We do see it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Ms. Moore, question. The priority sites, there were 3 mentioned, one of which happens to be in my district. According to the material I've read, $100,000 is the maximum to be spent on these 3 sites. Is that correct?
No, ma'am. So it'd be 100 per site. It would be capped at that. So not everybody's going to get that kind of money, and not every site will need that. The grant just won't work for that. So we would keep tabs on our budget, and we would they're capped at that so that each project can get a little bit of funding. And in your way, you would see those other sites. In Grandview, there's a site, and I believe in Kansas City, Missouri, they listed out their locations.
Right. Maybe that's the wrong question. $100,000. Would that be the uppermost limit? Would the brownfield inquiry into 1726 Quindaro be uppermost limited to that?
It doesn't appear that we're going to need that type of money because it was not like there's no drums on the site with materials in it, no gasoline or anything, underground storage tanks. So this one should be a rather, I wouldn't say easy because nothing's easy in brownfields, but it should not be that upper limit of cost.
Okay, but that is the upper limit for these
Correct.
projects,
That is the max across the board. All the projects are capped at that 100,000.
Okay. The next thing, is there any other entity that will have to make application for the Quindaro site or these other two. These three are going to be investigated without any further action by any other organization. Is that correct?
Yeah, we're already partnering with the owner, with Project Valley and Pride and Northeast Energy. They're already part of our partners currently, and we
Okay.
put before we even applied for the grant.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure in my mind that there was no other application process for the persons who are intimately involved in that site. Thank you.
Right. Okay.
I see no other hands raised. So I'll ask the clerk, are there any comments from the public?
No public comments were received.
Thank you. With that, this is an action item. I would entertain a motion.
Walters move for approval.
Townsend second.
We have a motion and a second. I would ask the clerk to again, please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, Stephanie.
Thank you, Commissioners.
That and committee, thank you for that. That takes us to item number 3, the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Student Housing, IRBs. And I believe it's a resolution of intent to issue those IRBs for the Community College Student Housing Project. For this evening, I'll recognize Catherine Carter. Welcome, Catherine.
Good evening, Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. If everyone can see my screen and hear me, then I will get started. This is, if I can get to the next slide, there we go. This is a resolution of intent that you all are voting on tonight for industrial revenue bonds in the amount not to exceed $20 million for the Kansas City, Kansas Community College Student Housing Project. This is for sales tax exemption only. So just a little bit about the project. This is a student housing facility on their main campus. They went through an RFP process over the last year to determine the builder and how the financing and all of that would work. They're looking at approximately 100,000 square feet with 260 units. The construction cost is just right around $20 million. And they're anticipating that the facility will open to students in August of 2022. This project will be funded by Student Housing System revenue bonds that KCK Community College are providing. And as I mentioned, this will not be a property tax abatement. This will be solely a sales tax exemption. So going through a few of the pictures just to give you an idea of what this looks like. And then also Michael Beach, the CFO of the community college, is on the line if you have additional questions. But I can give a very cursory view of kind of some nice pictures so you know kind of what they're planning. Here you can see the location on their campus. They are planning to have, quite a lot of amenities. So this will be kind of more than kind of your normal student housing. As you can see, they've got a lovely patio, fire pits, hammock groves, basketball courts, an amphitheater, etc. It should be really very lovely. Here's kind of a floor plan. You can see what the elevations look like. And then a couple pretty renderings. So if you have any questions, I'm happy to answer, or I believe Mr. Beach is also available.
Committee, any questions? Mr. McKiernan.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Catherine, could you go back to the overhead view, the map view? And I just write that one right there. I just want to verify that I know where this is. This is immediately southwest of the majority of their campus buildings, right? Is that the police academy facility that is to the right of this picture?
I believe so. No?
I don't think so.
Can the commission hear me?
We can, thank you.
Street.
Yeah. So this is Michael Beach with KCKCC. So the police academy is the building that you can see in the very lower end of the screen, directly south of the amphitheater. The buildings to the east are the current Royal Ridge apartments that the college leases for the existing student housing.
Perfect. I knew that building wasn't set far enough off the road to be the police academy building, but I was having a hard time figuring out. This is exactly where I thought it was. That's all I needed. Thank you.
I still thought that was further.
And actually, just for clarification, that section on the lower end of the screen is actually the parking lot of the police academy building, not the actual police academy building itself.
Okay. Any other questions? Good question, Commissioner McKiernan. Any other questions from the committee? Seeing none. Catherine, I just have one small question. These IRBs, if you said for a sales tax exemption, this is sales tax exemption on just the construction items, right?
Correct.
Materials?
Yeah, so this would be a very short term. They would be about a 2-year, basically until they finish their construction, and then that would.
Very good. Thank you for that clarification. No other questions from the committee. I would ask the clerk if there was any members of the public wishing to speak.
No public comments were received.
Thank you. With that, I would ask, this is an action item. We will need a motion.
Motion to approve as submitted, Johnson.
Kiernan, second.
We do have a motion and a second. Thank you, committee. I will ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Again, thank you, committee. That takes us to item number 4, the cash and investment policy. It's a presentation of our investment policy and a resolution adopting said policy. We're fortunate this evening to have Rick McKessick and Andrea Parra here to present this item. So I don't know who will be presenting. I would assume it would be Mr. McKessick.
Commissioner, thank you. Yes, this is Rick McKessick, and I am the county treasurer. Typically, Andrea would be here with us tonight. She sends her apologies. She had a death in the family, and so she's not with us tonight, but I'll do my best to serve in her absence.
Well, please pass along the commission's condolences, please.
I certainly will do that, yes. The cash management and investment policy is required to be reviewed annually by the cash management committee and then approved by the board of commissioners on an annual basis. That's part of the policy itself. If there are changes necessary by the cash management committee, we have to come to the board of commissioners for the approval. Over the past couple of years, there have been some changes made to the cash management and investment policy. And this year, we really have very, very little to change. In fact, it is simply just some formatting changes. So this is it right here, very quick. 3 formatting changes that were listed, just replacing or correcting extra period and some indentations. That's really the only change. It changed nothing significant with regard to the policy or what we'll be doing or anything like that. So I'm happy to answer any questions, but we really don't have much here. It's just because we've really hammered it pretty well, I think, over the last couple of years.
And Mr. McKessie, thank you for the presentation. At this time, I'd open up to the committee. Committee, any questions of our county treasurer? Sorry, let me make sure nobody's got their hand up. I see no questions. With that, I would ask the clerk if any comments were received from the public.
No public comments were received.
Thank you. With that, if there's not any other questions, this is an action item. I would entertain a motion.
Walters move for approval.
Johnson second.
We do have a motion and a second. Thank you, committee. I would ask the clerk, please call roll.
Roll call, Bryant,
Aye.
Walters,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Townsend,
Aye.
McKiernan,
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Thank you, committee. That takes us to item number 5. This is business efforts in reference to the COVID-19. It's an update on business efforts regarding COVID-19 and CARES Act grant funding. And we're privileged this evening to have Shaya Lockett make the presentation. At this time, I'll recognize Shaya Lockett. Welcome, Shaya.
Good evening. How is everyone? I'm Shaya Lockett with the Economic Development Department, and I am here to provide an update on our small business COVID-19 efforts. Is everyone able to see the screen? Okay.
Yes.
So we will go ahead with the funding overview. We had 3 separate sources of funding for businesses in our community. The first is our economic development department grants that we have annually, the $50,000. In April, we awarded those. We previously went before the commission to seek revision so that those grants could be used as a COVID-19 response. Our second source of funding is our WICO Loves Local grant, which was awarded through CARES Act funding. And that one, we issued grants for over $1 million. And then the third is through our partnership with AltCap. And we had roughly $266,000 between the PPP loans and the KC Regional Relief and Recovery Loan Fund that went to businesses in Wyandotte County. On this screen, these are the individuals who received the department grants, the Economic Development Department, small business grants. They were for $5,000 each. And these are the 10 businesses that were able to receive those funds. A WICO Loves Local application process, which is the grants there. We originally received $825,000 in CARES Act funding that was approved on September 15th. Our staff created an online application, and the grants could be used to reimburse for revenue loss and or COVID-related expenses. Businesses with 25 or fewer employees are eligible for $10,000, and those with more than 25 employees were eligible for $20,000. We opened our applications on September 17th, and due to receiving an excess of applications than we had funding available for, applications were closed October 7th. An additional $191,000 in CARES Act funding was reallocated to support small businesses on December 4th. And at that time, we reached out to eligible businesses that had previously applied but were not awarded grants or were not awarded their total amount eligible. And this is just an overview of how we scored our applications. A big part of what we wanted to do is make sure we had a significant impact on those businesses that had a more difficult time receiving funds from the federal and or state level. So we looked at businesses that were closed due to the stay-at-home order and businesses that lost revenue starting because of COVID. And also those businesses that had smaller number of employees nationally, those are the businesses that had a more difficult time receiving those funds. And then our next couple screens show us the list. These are the list of businesses that were able to receive the grant funds. And as you can see through this list, there are numerous industries represented. We have everything from restaurant industries to childcare, law firms, entertainment venues, and they're both smaller and larger companies that receive these grant funds. And this is the full list of businesses that receive grant funding through CARES Act. And this map here shows the location of the businesses that were able to receive those grant funds, and it shows how they were distributed throughout the county. So in summary, the grants were awarded to reimburse for revenue loss or COVID-related expenses. We received 133 applications. We were able to award 90 business applications. And the awarded applications were from 11 different zip codes in Wyandotte County. 70 of those awarded applications had 25 applicants had 25 or fewer employees. And we were able to distribute over $1.3 million in COVID relief to Wyandotte County businesses through these grant funds, the department grant funds, the CARES Act funding, and our partnership with ALTCAP. And as I said before, this was a true team effort. So we want to thank all those individuals who assisted in this process and helped us help our businesses in our community.
Shea, thank you for that overview. I think it's extremely fortunate that we have the individuals looking at those requests, those grant requests, to help alleviate some of the concerns our small businesses in our community are dealing with in reference to the COVID-19 pandemic. So thank you and all of those involved. And I do appreciate the overview this evening. That's a lot of money to put back into our local economy. And that money had to be distributed by the end of the year, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Thank you for that. Any questions from the committee? I didn't see any hands up a few minutes ago, so I apologize. I'm trying to stay. Commissioner Townsend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Commissioner Townsend speaking. Ms. Lockett, good evening. Good to see you.
Good evening.
I'll say hopeful new year to all of us, that things are better. And I think Commissioner Burrows may have answered my question with the reminder that certain of these funds had to be used by the end of 2020. So my current question is there any funding still available? What about the small grant loans that the UG usually had, the $50,000 pot? Where are we right now with that type of money or funding or resources? Someone looking tonight may ask that question, some small business.
So there is no CARES Act funding currently at this time, and we do still have money allocated for the small business grant, though I believe we would have to take it back before commission to get approval to use it for COVID expenses if that's the direction we take for 2021.
Okay, all right. If you could just verify that for me, I'd appreciate it. You could send me an email that, or to all of the committee members, just so we know in case we're asked by our constituents.
Yeah, Commissioner, just to add a little more to that, yeah, Shea is exactly right. As it currently stands, 4 days into the year, into the new fiscal year, that $50,000 has reverted back to its normal kind of small business process. However, that is something that we can certainly look into, kind of using that as additional COVID relief. But I will say the ALTCAP funds, now those are loans. not grants, but there are still significant amounts of money. I think the loans go up to $100,000 and are very low interest. I think the first year is 0% interest for those loans that are eligible, and there's a priority for Wyandotte County businesses.
Okay. If one of these businesses wanted to make application, could we refer that entrepreneur to your office then for guidance to AltCap and how to contact them?
Yes. Contact Shea.
All right, thank you.
Commissioner, if I might add, this is Alan House, Assistant County Administrator. We're also kind of awaiting additional guidance from the federal stimulus that was passed right at the end of the year. And so that contained, I believe, from news accounts, additional support for small businesses and the paycheck protection. But the details, I think, are still very much to be determined. And so as soon as we find that information out, and we certainly can post it as we did earlier this year to the information on our COVID page. And so I know that's also something the team will be looking at as we get more information.
Thank you, Mr. Howe. Good point. We'll keep an eye on that as well. Thank you.
I see no other hands, committee. With that, I'd ask the clerk if there were.
We do have a hand up of a Stacy Dameron that's in attendance, Mr. Chair.
Okay, Stacy, welcome to the committee.
Stacy, if you unmute yourself, you'll be able to speak.
Mike, I will get on there tomorrow.
It shut me off and I was there. They were talking to me.
They really didn't want to hear anything you had to say.
Oh my God.
Mr. Chair, would you like me to unmute Mr. Stacy?
If Stacy Dameron is available and he wants to speak, I would say unmute him. But if not, we'll move on to the next part of the agenda.
I'm trying to talk to you. I've never done this before. My question is how can you guys shut the small bars and businesses down like Coach Light Club, which I own, and there's no money coming to us?
Mr. Dameron?
Yes.
Are you scheduled to speak at the next item on the agenda, which is the public hearing referencing the closing times to bars and
I am one of
restaurants?
those. I am one of those, but I thought that was this one too. I'm not understanding how you guys can close the bars down, but yet we have no money come to us. We're too small. We do not get your PPA. We don't get no money to us at all. I just spent 3 months shut down and I just spent 2 more months shut down at 10 o'clock and there's no money coming to us whatsoever.
Mr. Dameron, I believe that we have people online that can answer the question. Those grants just don't go to businesses without an application process. I would assume that you had filled out an application. Staff, did we lose them?
So the ones that are hurting is those little small mall and park bars that we're not getting no revenue at all, but yet I got to pay my mortgage, I got to pay my electric, I got to pay my money to my taxes, but yet we get no revenue of any kind. How do you expect us to pay this?
Michael, you're over talking now. You're on TV.
Mr. Dameron,
Yes.
I'm going to ask, did you apply to the grant process?
Yes, I did. I was told I was too small.
Okay.
You guys ran out of money before I got there.
You're on TV.
Anyone want to answer Mr. Dameron's comment or comment to Mr. Dameron?
I'm not familiar with his application, but too small is not a thing on small businesses. But his last comment is very likely, as you saw from Shay's presentation, there was a huge response. And so I think it is highly likely that we ran out of funding prior to him completing his application.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. And there was a second round that went through, the dollars that had been returned that weren't utilized the first round. I believe I heard Ms. Lockett say that there was a second round and those businesses were contacted for consideration on the second round. So, Mr. Dammer, I don't have your specifics, but I would encourage you again to reach out to the local unit of government should we have additional dollars coming from the federal government. And at that time, that's uncertain at this particular time. But thank you for your comments. Madam Clerk, any other comments from the public?
No public comments were received.
Thank you. Okay, this was for information only. This was not an action item. And that will lead us then into item number 6, which I believe Mr. Damron stated he wanted to visit, but we heard him in item number 5. This is the public hearing in reference to closing times for bars and restaurants. And I, as well as my fellow commissioners, have been contacted by numerous constituents about the 10 p.m. closing time. We want to afford this opportunity for individuals to have their voices heard in a public setting such as this. At this time, I'll open the public hearing and ask the clerk to please read the names who have signed up to speak. We ask that you state your name and city of residency for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to state your comments. Should you go to the 2-minute mark, the clerk will announce that you have 1 minute remaining. I will ask the clerk to announce the first speaker.
Our first speaker is Melissa Need. She is the co-owner of the Dot Spot Bar and Grill.
Okay. And since this is a public meeting, I do want to remind everyone that please hold your comments. We ask that you state your name and city of residency again for the record. You will be given up to 3 minutes to state your comments. And I would ask the clerk at the end of the 3 minutes to advise the speaker that their time has expired. So with that, I would ask that, I believe Melissa Sneed is our first speaker.
It's Melissa Need, and she is as a panelist. If she unmute herself, she'll be able to speak.
Thank you. Thank you, staff. Welcome, Melissa.
Hi, good evening, committee members and commissioners. My name is Melissa Need, and I'm a resident of Kansas City, Kansas. I am the co-owner of the Dot Spot Bar and Grill. We are located at 82nd and Parallel here in KCK. We are a woman-owned business, and we've been in business since March of 2015. We have a small staff, roughly 10 or so employees, all of whom live in Wyandotte County. I have embraced the opportunity to be a part of the Restart WYCO committee and got a chance to speak and represent small restaurants and bars as we were working on getting things reopened. At the Dot Spot Bar and Grill, we have complied with all of the guidelines and mandates that have been presented to us throughout this whole process. Of course, it has been a tough year for small businesses, especially tough for our industry. Local bars and grills, restaurants are just really taking the brunt of things here within this pandemic, as you all can imagine. Currently, we have social distancing. We have taken half of our tables out of service in our dining room. If you're ever able to come in, you'll see tables are off the floor. They've got X's through them. We went down from 14 bar stools to 4. Things are spaced out. We are following the capacity mandates as well. And then, as you know, a few weeks back, we were placed with a 10 p.m. curfew. And while I do personally understand the rationale for the 10 p.m. closing time rule, it is killing us. We, can't sustain paying full rent, taxes, licenses, utilities, insurance with such limited operating hours on top of limited capacity and the social distancing requirements as well. We are watching our customers walk across to Johnson County and
We have
Leavenworth.
1 minute remaining.
Okay, we're watching our customers walk across county lines, spending their money in Johnson County, Leavenworth County. We're a sports bar, as you know, Chiefs games, basketball games, they don't end by 10 p.m. So we're just not getting customers for those games. They're going to Tanner's, they're going places in Johnson County and spending their money. The clock is ticking for many small businesses in Wyandotte County. We are all on life support right now. We're the kind of establishment who sponsors youth baseball, 4-H, golf tournaments, churches, class reunions for Washington, Schlegel, Wyandotte, Harmon, Piper, Turner, and Ward. We've hosted birthday parties, retirement parties in our back room over the years. We are a true neighborhood spot and the kind of place that communities cannot afford to lose. We need help from the UG and we need it fast. We need the 10 p.m. closing mandate to be modified to midnight to keep us competitive with Johnson County, if any of us stand a chance in making it 2020.
Thank you, Ms. Need. I would ask the clerk to announce the next speaker, please.
Our next speaker who signed up.
I do want to remind everyone to say your name and the city of residency for record, please.
Next, we have Kim Pond, who is the owner
Madam Clerk,
of
I'm
Red
sorry
Eye
I
Bar.
interrupted you.
Yeah,
Hi.
Kim Pond. Okay.
Ms. Pond?
Sorry, Carol. Hi, I'm Kimberly Pond. I live in Kansas City, Kansas. I own the Red Eye Bar on 61st and State Avenue. And I just first want to say thanks for listening to us because we didn't know where to go. And we really need all the commissioners, everybody to help support us and to get us put it on an agenda with the mayor to vote so we can get this moved as soon as possible. None of us have any idea how long it's going to be that we have to, close at 10 o'clock. We have no clue. We're at a loss. And we've lost all of our major holidays, St. Patrick's Day being the first one, but the casino got to stay open for St. Patrick's Day. We had to close at midnight. It's just, we're losing everything. My bar alone, I know, does a lot of charity work for the community and some, like the cancer and everything else. And we've lost all those motorcycle runs to raise funds for that. We've only done a handful of charity work this year compared to all summer long. We're trying to raise money to help the homeless. I mean, everything. And we're not able to do that anymore right now. And the people who are leaving Wyandotte County with Wyandotte County money, spending it in other countries, counties, which encourages the spread of COVID. They're going out to them other counties now. They're not just staying in Wyandotte. They're venturing out. And everybody is losing the money. And yes, like Melissa said, a lot of places are going to close down due to the loss of income, people losing their jobs, Wyandotte County losing money. And a lot of that money is made right here in Wyandotte County. And again, thank you for your time. I'm done.
Thank you, Ms. Pond. Appreciate your statements. Madam Clerk, next speaker, please.
Yes, our next speaker is Blake Lostel, the owner of the Colonial Club.
Hello, can you hear me? Yes, my name is Blake Lostel.
Yes, Mr. Lostel, I do want to.
I'm a resident of Wyandotte County over in Rosedale. I own the Colonial Club as well as over 20 properties on Strawberry Hill. So my biggest concern is I've already taken heavy losses by releasing people from leases as good faith just because of the pandemic. And the Colonial Club had to let go of 6 employees and we can't bring them back. We're down to like a shoestring employee budget. And so the problem is when we went to 10 o'clock, we've been towing the line. and helping and doing our part. But when you start destroying people's income like this, without any government assistance, it's a big problem. So my biggest concerns are, I've talked to the health department. Actually, one of the representatives called me, and she informed me that there was no economic person from the private sector to help make this decision to go to 10 o'clock. They've also released statistics that say that 50% of all deaths from COVID are from people from nursing homes that are of over 70 years old. People that are going to bars are between 20 and 50. They're not the main people that are getting this disease. Most of the bars, from just the two people before me, have caps of 50 people. So if we bring that cap down to 25 people, most people in our bars, in these tiny bars, are 10 people, and they are spaced. They're not making major spread happen. My second point to that is, I spent over $85,000 this year at Home Depot. And every time I go in there, I see people buying poinsettias that are in their 50s. So this is making me very upset that we are going to lose our businesses by these policies. I just got a form from the Wyandotte stating that the COVID preventions. At the very bottom, it said that churches and casinos are allowed to not follow these restrictions. This is not a fair playing field, is what I'm getting at with these situations I'm pointing out. We just want to be fair. I'm not saying 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm saying 12. Let us make some money to survive and get through this. So I'm going to get off now because I don't want to waste anybody's more time. But my next question is, when are we going to vote so that we can bring money back into Wyandotte County and actually have our employees get paid? When is this decision going to be made to match Johnson County, if it is ever going to happen? Because if it doesn't happen, people are going to get really upset.
Sir. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, our last speaker we had signed up is Vicky Kapalaka, owner of Cobby's Bar.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Vicky Kobialka Freeman. I own and operate Kobe's Bar and Grill in Bonner Springs, Kansas. Small owned business. For 33 years I've been here. This COVID-19 has been bad for everyone, and every business has suffered. One of the most detrimental issues financially has been the 10 p.m. closing. 2 minutes south of my business in Johnson County are several similar restaurants which are allowed to open for 2 more hours until midnight. 5 minutes north of my location is Leavenworth County, again similar to my business, and there is no time restrictions allowing these merchants to conduct business until 2 a.m. These time restrictions are desperate and are literally driving customers and business away, not only for me, but for many other Wyandotte County businesses also. I find it hard to believe that the number of viruses cases caused by the epidemic in this little corner of Kansas could cause 3 neighboring counties to have such variable degrees of restrictions. Please understand the difficulty that this restriction creates for us. Since March of 2020, I had to lay off over half of my normal operating staff. Even after the initial shutdown was lifted, former employees were hesitant to return back to work, and customers were going to businesses elsewhere with no time restrictions. And we at Kobe's Bar and Grill, Bonner Springs, Kansas, has stayed in compliance with all the COVID-19 restriction mandates. But based on the last 2 quarters numbers, I will probably have to close our doors. One or 2 days a week due to the lack of businesses and these restrictions on operating times. Losses that have occurred in the food industry not only affect me, but also municipal counties and state budgets too.
You have 1 minute remaining.
January of 2021 would be a good time to consider the small business issues and hopefully approve changes that will reduce the loss of revenue to help hardworking businesses to stay in business. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Kobiaka.
Hey, Mr. Burrows.
Staff, is there any other speakers?
We only had the 4 sign up ahead of time.
Okay. Thank you. This was an opportunity to hear from some of our small businesses that have reached out to the commission members, and we felt it was appropriate this evening to request that opportunity for those that signed up to speak. I want to thank you for taking the time this evening to join us and share your hardships and the challenges you face due to the COVID pandemic. But this was for information only. It was an opportunity for the public to express their comments, and we are grateful that we had 4 of those that chose to do that this evening. So thank you. This was for public information, and at this time that allows us to transition to item number 7, and that's a follow-up by the COVID-19 team. And with that, I would recognize Julian Van Loo of the Health Department to high time. I'd encourage our attendees to please stay online for the presentation. So Ms. Van Loo, please.
Thank you, Commissioner. Good evening, everyone. And thank you so much to the 4 of those businesses who came here this evening to convey to us what you're experiencing. I think first and foremost within the health department, we want to say that this is awful. We agree that this is awful. And these are, first of all, not decisions that we take lightly. And they are, second of all, not meant in any way to be punitive or to be targeting certain businesses. We're trying to make the best decision we can with the information that we have. So we absolutely hear you, and we are going to commit to reevaluating this amongst ourselves and with our fellow jurisdictions around the core 4. I know our Deputy Health Officer, Dr. Erin Corvo, and our Health Officer, Dr. Alan Greiner, are also on the line and would like to respond as well. Go ahead, Dr. Corvo.
Thank you, Julianne. Yeah, I just want to echo Julianne's sentiment this evening on how grateful we are that you came to the meeting to share with us how your businesses are doing, what you all are seeing and what you're feeling. It means a lot to us, I think, to understand that. And it's very important that we understand that. I do want to also echo that we hear you, and I think this is serious, and we will absolutely commit to taking this back this Friday to our directors meeting. You know, we initially went with the 10 p.m. Order to create consistency around the metro. And the inconsistency that's been pointed out this evening is in Johnson County. I believe they're at a midnight closing time at this point in time. We've already reached out to them, and we're having conversations with Johnson County about this as well. And so we commit to continuing to talk through this with them, but we do want to try and create some semblance of consistency in our community. The other thing that I wanted to say in the data that we're seeing is that sure enough, you know, our young people, those in the 20 and 30-year-old sort of range are, you know, comprising the majority of the cases that we're seeing in Wyandotte County. And whereas it's true that we don't see many people dying or hospitalized in that age group, unfortunately, it does just propagate the spread of the virus. And the virus is the real issue here. And we are still continuing to see severe illness and death from the virus. So we continue to worry about really any cases that come up in our community and are trying to sort of tamp that down. This was part of the attempt to do that. You know, we understand also, you know, that we're doing the best we can to consider what we think might spread the virus. But, you know, I think that the economic impact of this, mental health impact of this, and all of that is also on our minds and something that we do need to tend to. And so again, we'll be taking this back this week to our colleagues from other jurisdictions for a better look at it because, you know, again, we appreciate what you all have said. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Corvo.
Dr. Greiner, is there anything you'd like to add?
Nothing specific. I think Dr. Corvo summed it up nicely. I just want to contribute as well that we really appreciate the input. We know this has had a devastating impact on businesses, and I think that these businesses and many of you have been real pillars of the community. You understand the balance here between trying to do something that will slow this down so we can get back to business as usual versus move ahead with things that we think could be risky. And we're just trying to juggle that every day. And it's a real struggle. And so we appreciate the input, and we'll continue to try to balance those things because we want to be like some of the places in the world that have gotten back to business as usual. And we want to do that fast. So we'll be working on it, and we'll be pushing the entire metro to get on the same page, because we know that's the most brutal part, is that people are driving around doing different things in different jurisdictions. So thank you.
Thank you, Julianne. Any other information you'd like to share? Remind the social distancing, hand washing, mask wearing, all of those safety precautions necessary to ensure that we can push back against this virus as much as we possibly can, publicly and safely. Any closing comments?
No, you were beautiful just there. That was spot on, Commissioner. Thank you so much. I would also, the vaccines are the other antidote to this, right? So we have set up a very large mass vaccination site, and we are ready to vaccinate as many people as we can, as quickly as we can get our hands on that vaccine. So just ask you to all please spread that message that when it's available, people come to get their vaccine so that we can really get all of our businesses operating fully. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I do want to thank the three of you for joining us this evening to hear the concerns that we have commissioners I've been hearing from our small businesses, especially those small businesses, bars and restaurants, the impact, financial and emotional impact it's had on them. So thank you for joining us this evening. This was for public information only. So I do want to again thank our conferees this evening. This takes us to item number 8. And with item number 8, this is our last item of the evening, and it's the second amendment to the Downtown Campus Development Agreement. This was the blue sheet item that you should all have received prior to this evening's meeting. And with that, I will recognize Catherine Carter for the final subject matter this evening. Catherine?
Thank you very much. Catherine Carter, Director of Economic Development. Yeah, as you can see, this is a second amendment to the development agreement for the Lanier United Downtown Redevelopment Project right there at 5th and Minnesota. Really what this is doing is we had a date from the first amendment of January 15th as kind of the drop dead date to have everything in place for the closing to occur. So that is when we would actually transfer the property to Mr. Lanier and his company. What we are requesting with this second amendment is to push that by 60 days. So to March 15th, there is an ability for Lanier United to get some additional and far more favorable financing. And I'll turn it over here to Willie to kind of explain the circumstance and why we think this is a good extension to grant. Mr. Lanier.
Righty, thank you very much for the time. And can you hear me though? Just to make sure. Okay, good, yep. Good. So thank you for the time. We are looking to, as Catherine said, obtain an extension of our drop dead date, strictly and due only to the opportunity that has been presented to me and the company from LISC regarding funding. LISC has received the opportunity based on the 2020 social justice movement, a new fund that is in excess of over $200 million has been created. The fund is tailored to Black developers and Black economic development across the country. The fund was funded by Netflix, Costco, PayPal, companies of that nature. LISC reached out to me at the early part of December and said that we would like to submit this project as a target for this new fund that we think that would be it meets all the objectives of this money. And so at such time, I had a couple conversations with them, and I believe very valuable. What it could do for the project is, from a very practical standpoint, up to maybe a 1 point less in interest rate. Could be some more favorable terms in terms of our ratios that we perform to. It will also allow me to do, as Catherine said much earlier tonight, absorb some of the costs that have gone up and escalated during 2020, i.e. lumber and so forth, to the extent that we are looking at being somewhat different and looking at a light gauge metal structure in lieu of lumber. Just because the pricing has gotten so high, we may be able to build a better building for almost equal price because of the cost, the fact that lumber is so high. I do believe that we have methodically gone through everything that I was supposed to do in working with the unified government over the past year. And we know that our first amendment that we asked for back in July or June, so to speak, was in order for us to get our incentives and our rezoning synced up together. And we were able to do that through Amendment 1. I am asking for Amendment 2 so that we have the ability to flesh out any other benefits that the new financing opportunities would bring to the fold here. Clearly, the traditional lenders don't have the ability and or private business desire to create lending that's more attractive, such as the new LISC funds that have come in most recently. And with that, LISC has been put on notice that this is a short fuse in order for us to deliver this new funding, and the closing will not be extended past what I'm requesting for today. Any questions, please?
Thank you, Mr. Lanier. Committee, any questions? I don't see any hands. Well, congratulations, Mr. Lanier. I would assume that your project would be one of the first ones in the metropolitan area to be considered for the new funds that are available.
That is correct. That's correct.
That's quite an award to be considered on a project such as yours. The potential savings that it would present should those funds become available. And the question I would have, I believe the unified government has put forward some hotel tax money, I believe, within the development proposal. Is there a possibility that those funds may not need to be used in this project if the monies are more favorable through the financing? I mean, that's something I would think that would be a point of discussion for the Catherine as well as the economic development team.
Well, I think for myself, I came to the unified government and said that I would try to do two things. I would try to be a catalyst for the downtown redevelopment area, and I would try to create opportunities for those who have not been received opportunities from an employment standpoint. The best I could as being an individual developer myself. And because of that, I inherently bring more expenses and costs to my projects because of what I tell any municipality on day one, what I will do. So I think that although I'm searching for savings, I turn around and I redirect those savings back into the community because that's consistent with what I've said since day one.
And I believe you will, Mr. Lanier. Thank you for that comment.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Any other questions or comments from the committee?
Yes, Commissioner Johnson moved to approve as submitted.
Mr. Johnson, we have to ensure that we have no public comment first.
No public comments were received.
Thank you, Carol. Appreciate that. All right, Mr. Johnson, you've been recognized.
Move to approve as submitted.
Okay.
Kiernan, second.
There has been a motion and a second. This is an action item, and I would ask the clerk to please call roll.
Roll call. Bryant.
Aye.
Walters.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Townsend.
Aye.
McKiernan.
Aye.
Burrows.
Aye. Thank you, committee. Catherine, thank you for your presentation. Mr. Lanier, Happy New Year to you. And I'm looking forward to see some groundbreaking in the downtown corridor, see that catalyst get busy here. So
Yes, sir. Thank you much.
thank you. Committee, that concludes our meeting for this evening. Happy New Year to each and every one of you, and I look forward to our partnership moving Wyandotte County forward. Thank you for joining us this evening.